Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to Star Trek Away Missions, the Battle of Wolf 359. This is the core set. This is video part 2. Go ahead, go back, check out part 1 if you want a brief overview of the game, kind of turns, gameplay, tokens, all that stuff. This video, we're going to go through the Federations. We're going to look at Riker's away team, which consists of Shelby, Data, Commander Riker, and Worf. And then part 3, we will go over Locutus's Unimatrix. So we're going to go over the different characters, their cards, and all their decks and all that stuff. Excuse me. We're just going to look at the miniatures. So they made a really unique design choice with all the miniatures here. Is they wanted to give them a little bit bigger upper bodies and heads, so they're very distinguishable. But they tried to keep their hands and feet and legs and lower torso, lower bodies, kind of correctly proportional. The idea is so you could look right at them, and really tell it. They actually played around with this. There's actually design notes on this where they played around with making them just look like standard everything. But then when you got 12 guys on the board, they'll start to just kind of look the same, especially when they're not painted. But yeah, so that didn't work really well. You can definitely tell this is Riker. The bases are kind of neat too. They do show their name on there. So we have Riker. So in case you're not as familiar with some of these characters as maybe I might be, I know some of the main characters, but when I start getting the Romulans or the Klingons, I'm not gonna know who all of them are. There's also a texture. This is kind of just like a carpeted texture of the Federation ship, which is kind of fun. Alright, so let's look at what Riker does. We'll look at each of the characters first, and then we'll go through the decks. So on the very top, we are going to have symbol for every team there, the Federation. Name of the character, obviously, William T. Riker. Then after that is kind of their little bit of classifications and what ship they're on. So far, I don't think these play a giant part into the game. I think they're just more for flavor text. But that's not to say they might not at some point. So he's the first officer, and he's part of the USS Enterprise D. Then below it in the yellow blocks, we have their specializations. These are things that if they have certain missions they're trying to complete, they will gain bonus dice if they are bonus dice. They'll get bonus dice if they're doing them specific ones. So there'll be something that might say take a command skill test at a terminal. Anyone can take that skill test, but if someone has the command specialization, they're going to be a little bit better at it. So he has command, diplomacy, and security. Then behind that are little extra traits. They are referenced in various things. So he's a human. Usually it's a race. One of them, usually their race or designation, I guess, on some of them. And then sometimes there's maybe a little bit more specification. There's a commander. Every team has to have one commander. So as they release more characters, you can swap out different characters. So they're going to release the Federation Picard's teams. You can swap Riker and Picard around. But I think per the way they structure the building is you wouldn't have Picard and Riker on the same team. Now again, your game, do whatever you want. It's definitely possible. Then we get to right here. We have usually the first one's always their type of attack they're going to do. Almost all the Federation have phaser or type 2 phasers, which give you +1 dice for attacking. So when you're attacking someone, you get to roll an extra die for their skills. Does 0 extra damage, but it also has the stun rule. If you do damage to them instead of them actually taking physical damage off their character, it just gives them a stun token, which you might be like, well, that's not as good, but it kind of is, because then they have to waste one of their 2 actions recovering from stunning. So if you keep stunning guys, they get 1 less action every turn. That could be very helpful. Although then again, neutralizing them, doing enough damage to take their health down to 0, and taking them off the board is ideally better, but that's not how the Federation plays. They don't start out shooting to kill. There are cards that will actually have set phasers to kill. We can actually change that with a specific card, but that's kind of a neat little mechanic. He also has a special skill called Number 1, taking action to search for a command event card. So this will let you go through and look for an event card, such as event, that says command. So this will let you actually find specific cards a little bit quicker. So this will give him a little bit more option. He has 2 attack, 3 defense, 2 skill, and then up to 4 movement spaces. Now, he's not necessarily the highest stats of even some of the members on his team, but his extra abilities kind of make up for it. If we flip this around, we do have some quotes on the back, which is kind of cool. A little information on him. Fear is the true enemy, the only enemy. Commander Riker was a brilliant, if unorthodox, tactician. Data calculated that he used his traditional tactics just 21% of the time. When Captain Picard was assimilated by the board, Riker assumed command using direct attack combined with misdirection. He succeeded in discovering the weakness of the near impregnable Borg cube. So that's pretty cool. All right. Up next, speaking of data, we're going to look at data here. Kind of cool. He's got his phaser in his pocket. And he's got a little communicator out that he's doing some pads on. I'm not going to spend too much time on each of these miniatures because you want to get through all the characters and all the cards. Alright, here's Data. So he's the Chief Operations Officer. He has USS Enterprise D as well. Computers, Engineering, and Science. So you can see now between the two of them, they cover 6 different things. So these two teaming up, Data and Riker can give you a lot of different options for something. He's an android. He also has a Type 2 phaser. He also gets bare hands, which have 0 extra dice and 0 extra damage, but it gives him a melee attack. So he'll run up and punch somebody. He doesn't care. But to be melee, you have to be within 1 space of them. He also gets supportive. When Data gives another character backup or a skill test, add 2 dice instead of 1. So having him stick with somebody else is definitely a good idea, because then he can give them backup so they get extra dice. Plus, if somebody gets close, he can also punch them. Otherwise, normally the characters don't have melee attacks. He has 3 attack, 3 defense, 3 skill, and he moves 4 spaces. So he's actually, again, comparing him to Riker here, he actually has a little bit better attack and a little bit better skill. And he can go physical attacks. You'd almost say he's better, but there are specific cards in the game that are going to require you to have Riker. So there's kind of a difference there. What does Data say on the back? Whoops, I threw that across the table. Data is a Sulong type android, the first of its kind encountered by the Federation. His dream is to become more human, even though he is superior to them in almost every way. To pursue his goal, Data joins Starfleet, joining the crew of the USS Enterprise. Cool. Another well-known character for even not super Star Trek fans is Worf. So he's a Klingon, so we get him. He has Batholith with him. And he's more of like the attacker character. I would love to get these painted. They would definitely look really cool. And they're like red and yellow costumes and stuff. Alright, what does Worf do for us? So Worf has he's a Chief Security Officer. Makes sense, he's going to be, the combat guy is going to be their security. He has computers and security. He also has Klingon for his race and the House of Amog, which I don't think there's anything specifically references that, but there might be in the future, which is a really fun little mechanic they've added in there. He has his Type 2 phaser, but he also, as I mentioned before, he has his Batholith, which is his double-bladed weapon. Doesn't give him any extra attack dice, but it does do 1 extra damage. So if he hits, he deals 1 extra damage. Does melee, also has defensive. And right there below, we see what defensive does. Says add 1 die to defense rolls against melee weapons. So if somebody attacks him, he just uses weapon to also help block melee attacks as well. So he's going to, again, be very good close up. He has 3 attack, 3 defense, 2 skill, and he can get up to 4 spaces of movement. On the back, we have some information on him. Worf, the first Klingon to ever join Starfleet, was the chief security aboard the USS Enterprise. The combination of his Klingon directness and the combat skills the training of a Federation officer made Worf particularly formidable. Along with Data, he was one of the first Federation officers to infiltrate the Borg ship. Awesome. And our last character, which might not be as well known to most people, unless you're like a fan of the series, is Shelby. Here she has her phaser ready to grab her phaser to go, and she has her data pad out. I have a lot to say about her because I don't really know. I personally don't know too much about her. I didn't really watch this series that much. I like the combat mechanics. I like Star Trek enough to pick though. So here we have Shelby. She's our security detail. She has command, engineering, and security. She's a human and she's a specialist. So much like Riker is a commander, she's a specialist. I believe, again, in the rule building, for your team building, if you want to switch out characters as new sets come out, is you have to have one commander and one specialist. So, like, you have to switch out. You couldn't just get rid of Shelby and not put somebody else in her place. I don't know who on Picard's team is that character. And I don't believe as of right now there's any specific rules for mixing and matching different factions. She has her Type 2 phaser. She also has Borg Expert. Roll an additional die when rolling attack, defense, or skill dice in an attack action or opposed skill test against a Borg character. So she's going to be very helpful for defeating the Borg. But this might be, again, where you might want to switch her out for somebody else if you're playing against one of the other factions. Just because otherwise you're losing that ability there. And she has pretty low stats otherwise, because she has 2 attack, 2 defense, 2 skill, but she can move up to 4 spaces. But she, she's not going to necessarily be useless, just she's not going to be as good against non-Borg characters. So, as a member of the Starfleet Tactical, Shelby is heading the analysis of the Borg threat, joining the crew of the USS Enterprise in the pursuit of the Borg cube threatening Earth. Despite her fast and loose style clashing with Riker's more structured approach, they work well together when faced with imminent destruction of the Federation. Cool. So those are 4 different Federation characters. First thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the mission decks. I do love how the mission and support decks go back to back like that to form the symbol. I always thought that was pretty cool. So this is actually broken up in the box set with a special starter deck card. So it's going to have, this is the current cards, the first bunch of cards I'm going to show you are part of the starter deck, and then they have some extra ones afterwards. But I'm going to do all the missions together. I will just make sure I kind of separate them out. They do have deck listings for other characters or on their website in case you want to rebuild these decks ever. They unfortunately didn't print any in the rule books. Alright. Actually, before we even get into that, let's look at our core mission first. Our core mission, which what we want to be trying to do, is Protect Sector 001. So you gain 5 bonus points. Whenever one of your character incapacitates a hostile character, place a 5 bonus point token on this card. So stunning your opponent's characters are going to help you do this. 10 bonus points. Whenever your character neutralizes a hostile character, place 10 bonus points on this card. So if you can eventually get around to setting your phasers to kill, and you neutralize, you can gain a lot more points. And that's how you can score a bunch of points that way. Alternatively, you could do Repair Ship. Score 30 points if you have 5 or more repair mission cards in your scoring area at the end of the game. Now, you have to select these before you get to pick your missions or start drawing your cards, so you don't know which one you're going to maybe have to lean towards. But it gives you at least a little alternative goal of something to do. Alright, now let's go ahead and look at our mission cards. I like the fact that almost all of these are unique. So there's not a lot of each different one. Now, there are a few that will say Supply 2 or Supply 3, which means you can have up to that many in the deck. That doesn't mean that the starting deck list is going to have that many in there. Or even like a later expansion, like when the Picard team comes out, he might have some cards that say supply 2 or supply 3 and might not even have them because they could have been in the core set. So they might not reprint them later because they might have just been available. Let's just say that's the max number you can have. Alright, so we have wartime conditions, which is interrupt. Score this card when your characters have incapacitated or neutralized 2 or more hostile characters this round, and score 25 points. This kind of just sits in your hand until you can do that, or you get rid of it. Access Captain's Log. Take a command skill test at any command terminal. If passed, score this card. Bonus, score 5 points for each additional success for 10 points. Access the Engineering Log. Take an engineering skill test at any operations terminal. If passed, score this card. Bonus, score an additional 5 points for each additional success. Access Medical Log. Take a medical skill test at any medical terminals. If passed, score this card. 5 points for each additional success. Access the Science Log. Take a science skill test at a science terminal. If passed, score 5 for each additional success. And access the Tactical Log. For the security skill test at any operations terminal. If passed, score this card. 5 points for each additional success. So a lot of the same ones, just for different terminals. And then we get some others. So here we have one of our repair missions. Eject destabilized warp core. Take an engineering skill test at an operations terminal in engineering. Immediately take a command skill test with a different character at any command terminal. You path both score this card. So this is kind of interesting because you have to play this card to do these. Now you have to try and compete both. If you fail, then this card's discarded. We have to kind of set players up in 2 different areas, but you can score 30 points as opposed to maybe only the 10 on one of the previous cards. Fire antimatter spread. Take a security skill test at operations on the bridge, and then immediately take another engineering skill test at operations in engineering. And this gets you 35 points. Get the main computers online. Take a computer skill test at any operation terminal. Taking another computer skill test with a different character at any other operation terminal. Again, another repair. Marksmanship. Interrupt. Score this card when your character puts a stun token on a hostile character, or your character has dealt 3 or more damage to a hostile Borg character. So 5 points. So that's kind of cool. You get a little bit of options on what you do. We get 2 copies of that one in this part of the deck. We have Neutralized Threat, which we also have 2 right away. Score this card when your character incapacitates or neutralizes a hostile character. So 10 points. So this is what kind of gives the Federation a little bit of thing. They have some cards for neutralizing or incapacitating characters, but they have other cards that want them to do like lots of skill tests. So they're getting a little bit of flexibility in there. Prepared assault teams. Take a command or security skill test at the command terminal in the armory. If passed, score this card. Bonus, you may search the support deck or discard pile for a weapon or equipment card. That's pretty helpful, right? We have 2 copies of Quick Reflexes. Interrupt, score this card, and if attack action against one of your characters causes no damage. So if you can defend yourself. Reroute main power. Taking engineering skill test at operations in the main corridor. If passed, score this card. Bonus, score 5 points for each additional success. Recast the main deflector array. Take an engineering skill test at operations in engineering, and then take a command skill test with a different character at command. Score 30 points. Seal the hull breach. Take an engineering or security skill at the operations terminal in the main corridor. If passed, score this card. If failed, every character, unless android or Borg, in the main corridor receives 1 stun token. That's kind of a neat little thing. It's risky. It's a list on there. But yeah, if you can perform one of them, great. If you can't, you can stun everybody else. But now this can definitely be used with you. If you're playing like this, you can have data run out. Try this if there's like maybe some other Klingons or Romulans or whatever around. if you fail, you might stun everybody else, right? So it can definitely work in your advantage as well. But yeah, you gotta depend on when it's worth doing it. And then stabilize life support. Score if this card, if you have a character at the science terminal in the bridge area, an operation terminal in engineering, and a medical terminal in sickbay, and this character is at least one of these terminals. So you have to have 3 characters in different spots, and one of them has to be this character, but you gain 40 points. You don't have to perform any tests. Bonus, recover 1 damage for each friendly character unless an android or Borg. So definitely a cool way as well. So this could be a good way, like, spread your guys out. This could be very helpful for gaining extra 40 points right off the bat, or early on. All right, so we did see wartime conditions already. These are the additional cards they had outside of the starter deck. Establish wartime protocols. Take a security test at operations while having another character at another operation terminal. Score 5 bonus points for each success. File mission report. Take a communication skill test at the command terminal in the crew quarters. 5 points for success. Red alert. Score this card if this character is in the armory, bridge, or engineering, and you have characters at command terminals in all 3 locations. Bonus, you may search your support deck or discard pile for set phasers to kill. Repair Heisenberg compensators. Take an engineering skill test at an operation terminal in the transporter room. Immediately take a computer or engineering skill test with a different character at any other terminal. If you pass both tests, score this card. So this has got a lot more of the repair. So these are, again, these are some of the extra ones. So you can decide whether you want to play that. If you're playing the repair one, you might want to add some of these cards back in. Restore power to the bridge. Score this card for characters at the science terminal in the bridge, engineering ends, or science lab if you have characters at a science terminal in all 3 locations. Bonus, well, this card is in your scoring area. You score 5 bonus points for all missions requiring a character in the bridge. So again, this could be very powerful, but you have to have your characters set up versus some of the cheaper 10-point ones are just like, do this action here. So it's interesting how this works. Restore the lab's database. Take a science skill test at the science lab. Immediately take an engineering skill at operations engineering. Scan for threats. Take a science skill test at the science lab. If passed, score this card. Search the support deck or discard pile for a tactical retreat card. Secure fleet deployment orders. Take a command skill test at command in the bridge. Bonus, draw 3 mission cards. Put 1 in your hand, shuffle the rest back into your mission deck. And our final mission card is Set Auto Destruct. Score this card if the character is in Armory, Bridge, or Engineering, and you have characters at command in all 3. Bonus, roll a die for after each round. On a 5 or 6, score 40 points, and the game ends. Do not roll if opposing characters are in terminals, in the bridge, or engineering. So this can be very interesting. Like, you did just, like, right off the bat, potentially, between rounds 2 and 3, you could just, boom, score 40 points and destroy everything. So very interesting. Alright, then we're going to go ahead and look at the support deck. So this can be various types of events, or equipment, or characters, or different things to help you out. Alright, so to start off, we do have a permanent event. So when this comes into play, this will actually stay into play when you play it. It'll just sit there until you get discarded somehow. So to play this card on the table, and then that's one of your actions. And friendly characters gain this action. So now all your characters can use Type 2 phasers. You have 1 attack dice, 0 damage, and no stun. Friendly characters roll 1 less die for all diplomacy skill tests. So it's a good and bad thing, because if you have diplomacy things you have to do, you're going to roll less dice. But you have the option of straight up damaging characters. Score 5 bonus points for each board character that you neutralize. I like that we get characters in here we don't have. Now, there is a later thing with, like, again, Picard's team, which will have some of these characters, is you can't have this event card and that character in your deck. So, if I swapped out, like, Worf for Beverly Crusher, for example, I would have to take Beverly Crusher's card out of my deck. You know, it's just kind of continuity thing. So if you have her, it's like choose one of the following. Interrupt. A friendly character of your choice gains an additional die for all medical and science skill tests until the end of your activation. Shuffle this card into your support deck. Or, as an action, recover up to 2 damage or remove up to 2 condition tokens from a character. So it's very helpful. Chief O'Brien has either interrupt, search for equipment, or transport an event card. Shuffle this card into your support deck at the end of activation. Or place a friendly character in an empty space. So if they interrupt something, you can go ahead and get these cards back. You're playing as an action, which gets them a little bit more immediate thing than their one-time use. We have a diversion. Take a diplomacy skill test against a hostile character in a line of sight. If passed, move the hostile character 1 space for each success. Roll 1 additional skill dice if this character is adjacent to the hostile character. Yes, it's kind of, you know, like, to move guys around. But again, if you have your phaser set to kill, you get 1 less die for this. We do have Evade, which has a supply of 2 on there, but we only have 1 in the main deck. Some of these again are they have extra copies in the non-starter part of the deck. Action. Take a move action. This character may move through, but not in your moving spaces occupied by hostile characters during this move. Geordi LaForge. Interrupt. A friendly character of your choice gains an additional die for all computers and engineering skill tests till the end of this activation. Shuffle this deck into support. Or search your deck for support or discard pile for an equipment card. Sprint. Take a move action, then move up to 2 extra spaces. Just seeing Worf run is kind of funny. Medical attention. Take a medical skill test. If passed, or this or an adjacent character either recovers 1 damage for each success or removes 1 condition token. This character is in a sick base. Shuffle this card into your support deck. Riker's orders. Now these are very interesting because they're specific for Riker. They only be played during Riker's activation. Move up to 2 friendly characters up to 3 spaces each. He's got some more like that you get like that in the other set. We have 2 copies of Site-to-Site Transport. Requirement. May only be played if there's a friendly character in the operation terminal at the transporter room. Action. Place this character and any character in the same space in an empty space. So, you get to use the transporters, but you have to have someone on them and have this card. We have 2 copies of Tactical Retreat. Play when a hostile character ends a move action in line of sight of a friendly Federation character. Move that friendly character up to 2 spaces. Transfer Control. Take a computer skill test at a terminal. If passed, change the type of this terminal by placing a terminal token over it. So, we do have these tokens here, so you can actually change some of them. So that could definitely set you up for some really interesting combinations. Then we have some equipment cards. We have 2 copies of Hypospray. Recover up to 2 damage or remove up to 2 stun tokens from this or an adjacent character, then discard this card. If this character is in a sick base, shuffle this card in your support deck instead. So it's not just the equipment as you spend 1 point to place this down on the character, and then later you can use this when you need it. So it kind of sets it up. We have 2 copies of Pattern Enhancer. Put a Pattern Enhancer token in this character space, then set this card beside the mission area for reference. Characters may move between Pattern Enhancer tokens or from these tokens to the transport spaces marked with the little arrow guy if they're in adjacent spaces. Yes, then we get 2 of those tokens as well. So 1 for each card, but basically if you play these down, you can use them as transporter around the board. And then we have 3 copies of the Type 3 Phaser Rifle, which gets you 2 attack dice, also gets rid of that stun. Friendly characters roll 1 less die for all diplomacy skills. So much like the set phasers to kill, which works for everybody, this you can give a specific character the ability to ignore that stun effect. Alright, we're going to jump back into some events. These are the ones that were not part of the starter set, or the starter deck. So permanent event, activate level 1 force fields. Action, take a computer skill test at any operations terminal. If passed, put the lockdown token on the selected mission board and set this card beside the mission board for reference. Lockdown token, moving through doors on mission boards counts as 1 extra movement space. So we do have the lockdown token here, right there, a little bit of force field. Yeah, so basically on one of the big giant boards, you're going to put a lockdown token on it, and it's basically if someone needs to move through doors on that mission, it's going to cost them more extra movement. So basically, it'd be a great way to like shut down your opponents from doing stuff. We also have Deanna Troy. Interrupt, a friendly character of your choice gains additional die for all diplomacy, skill tests, and the empath keyword until the end of this action. Shuffle is in the support deck. Or look at the mission cards in the opponent's hand. That's very interesting. So we haven't seen much with empath in this one, but it might come up again in like one of the later expansions. We have 2 copies of Diffusing the Situation. Play before the opponent rolls dice when a hostile character takes an attack action. A friendly character in line of sight takes an opposed diplomacy skill test against them. If passed, the attack action is cancelled, and the opposing player draws a support card instead. So this is actually really cool. So it's like, if someone's attacking you, basically you can play this card, roll a die, try and perform a skill test. If you succeed, their attack fails. They have to draw a support card instead. But again, if you set your phasers to kill, also now you have your Type 3 phaser, you'll get less diplomacy, which will make this harder to do. So it's kind of cool. There's a Vade again. We had one of those. I'm going to mispronounce her name. Gwynens. I know I said that wrong. Her advice, Whoopi Goldberg. Discard 1 card at random from your hand. Search your support deck for an event card. After you play this card, you may shuffle it back into your support deck or discard to draw 2 support cards. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. So you have to discard a card, random card, which sucks, but you get an extra card from your deck. But then you have the option of either replay this or drawing 2 more support cards. So kind of cool. It gives you some different options. 2 copies of Lockout Terminal. Challenge a skill test taken by a hostile character with one of your characters at a terminal. So as long as you're at a terminal, you can challenge someone else's skill test. This is definitely, they're doing one where they have to perform multiple skill tests. This could definitely mess them up. We had another medical attention. Then we get a bunch of Riker cards. So Riker's field promotion. So requirements require Riker's activation. Put all support cards from your hand on the bottom of your support deck in any order, then draw the same number of support cards. Do you refresh your hand? We have Riker's playbook. Put all mission cards from your hand on the bottom of your mission deck in any order, draw the same number of mission cards. So that's pretty cool. Another sprint. Throw away the book. Play when your opponent plays an event card. Choose a friendly character. Take a command skill test. Your opponent chooses one of their characters to challenge it. If passed, the event card does not take effect and is discarded. Transfer control. Our last event card is Wesley Crusher. A friendly character choice gains an additional die for all science and engineering skill tests until the end of your activation. Shuffle this into your support deck. Or shuffle your opponent's permanent event card back into their support deck. that could really hurt some guys. Then we have some last minute equipment. We have engineering kit. Roll 1 additional die when this character takes the engineering skill test. Bonus, this character rolled 2 or more successes in the engineering skill test. When you scored a repair mission, gain a bonus action token. Yeah, if you can combine this with a repair, that you can gain extra tokens out of it, which is really fun. We have the pad. Shuffle your support deck. Discard pile, then put the top. Shuffle your support deck's discard pile, then put the top card into your hand. Action: search your support deck for any 2 equipment cards and shuffle them into your support deck. Nice. So you basically play this and you just spend these actions to gain extra cards. We have 2 copies of Personal Log. Score this card as a mission card if this character scored another mission card this round. It's not bad. Play it down, and you score something, you get an additional 10 points. And then finally, our last card is we have the Thermal Deflector Unit. Put a Thermal Deflector token in this character space, then remove this card from the character and set this card beside the mission for reference. Thermal Deflector Unit. The card of a ranged attack action, roll 1 additional defense dice if the line of sight passes through this space or the target is in this space. So we get 2 little tokens there. So basically you can drop this down if you're on that space or it's in between you and somebody else. You gain extra defense dice, which is definitely not a bad thing. Drop one down, run the other direction. Could be very helpful. Alright, so that's what we have for the Federation. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, they have a lot of different stuff they can do. Again, I like the idea there is a starter deck you can kind of play around with. Then you can kind of mix and match. There are some rules for mixing and matching, like you have to have so many of a certain number of cards, but I think you can have more than that. And I don't think you have to have necessarily any I think you have to have like 20 support cards, or 20 mission cards. I don't remember which one. But you don't have to have any permanent events. You don't have to have any equipment. Or you could load up on equipment or load up on permanent events. And as they release more factions, I think the game's just going to get more and more interesting. Because like when Picard's team comes out, now we have another set of cards to play. Again, some of them might duplicate because, hey, they're the same type of thing. Or that way you could have 2 teams versus each other in that sense as well. Like a training mission, that'd be kind of interesting. But yeah, there's going to be definitely some interesting things. So I hope they keep expanding this game more than just the upcoming stuff when they release like dozens of different teams. Would be really fun. Alright, that's what we got for this set. Come back, check out part 3, and we'll look over the board. See you guys later. Bye.